animal.
Technical difficulties. Okay, Bhante.
Okay, let us begin with the metta practice. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought, let us begin our practice. We pay attention to our breathing, noticing inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling. When we inhale, we notice the breath touching our nostrils, treating our lungs, expanding our chest area, and then expanding our lower abdominal area. As we breathe out, lower abdomen contracts, chest area contracts, the breath leaves our nostrils. These are the three functions that invariably take place all the time when we breathe in and out. Also, we notice the feeling, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness also rise and fall to the same rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. In fact, they rise and fall much faster than the rise and fall of the breath, and they all continuously rising and falling all the time. Seeing this true nature common to all existing things, the mind does not attempt to hold on to anything, any desire. So desire naturally fades away, at least temporarily during the period we practice this meditation. And then body relaxes, mind relaxes, the breath relaxes. In this relaxed state of mind, rigidity, uptightness, anger fades away, giving room to the feeling of metta. So when metta feeling arises, resentment leaves the mind, anger leaves the mind. And then we also notice our restlessness will no longer be there as compassion arises. When compassion arises, restlessness and worry fades away because we have compassion for all living beings. And then we get energetic. When we get energetic, sleepiness and drowsiness fade away because when we are energetic, the mind and body become more active, and then sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. So greed, resentfulness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry fading away, we get confidence. Excuse me. When we have confidence, we become full of joy because we see the results of our practice. That is anger greed fading away, anger fading away, restlessness and worry fading away, sleepiness and drowsiness fading away. We see the results. Therefore, confidence in our practice, confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha arise in our mind. When we have confidence, joy arises in us. When joy arises, the body and mind relax even further. Then tranquility, happiness arises. The happiness also makes the body and mind more calm, relaxed and peaceful. Then tranquility arises. Tranquility called passaddhi in Pali. When it arises, the mind and body are more calm and more relaxed. Then concentration arises. Concentration is the unification of mind, wholesome mental states come together, work together as one team to make mind concentrated. So with this concentrated state of mind, we look at our own aggregates, composites, form, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness. These are groups, and they also change constantly, consistently. Their subtlest change can be noticed with concentrated mind. And let us see how it works. When that appears, becomes clear to us, we know that there is nothing permanent in us. Everything is constantly changing, like incredibly powerful machine. Every part, everything is rising and falling and rising and falling, and nothing stay fixed. We can see this, then the notion of self fade away. We have seen greed fading away, hatred fading away, delusion fading away. Delusion is that there is self. That self-delusion also fades away. Three primary roots of defilements fade away. Dukkhapatta ca nidukkha bhayapatta ca nibbhaya sokapatta ca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. Keeping this metta thought in mind, sharing our metta with all COVID victims, old ones and new ones, let us try to answer this, listen to these answers to these questions. Brian will read the question.
Okay. First question. Re- reality that is relative, conventional, determined, conceptual, impermanent, and dependently arising. Do all of these words refer to the same reality? Are these all synonyms for the same reality? I can list the words again.
Yeah,
Or here they are.
read it again. Okay.
Reality that is relative,
Relative,
conventional,
conventional, determined, conceptual, impermanent, and dependently arising all mean the same thing,
right?
right? Now,
In other words, are they synonyms for the same reality?
yes, but there is another reality which is not conventional, not determined, not conceptual, not impermanent, and not dependently arisen. And that reality is not mentioned here. That is the reality we want to achieve. I said, I think yesterday or some other time, when we don't get what we want, that is suffering. Not to get what we want is suffering. And to get what we want also is suffering. But there is one thing, for not getting that we have suffering, but when we got it, we don't have suffering. You see, I hope you understand. Let me put this. This is not a puzzle. This is the reality that we want to achieve. In the description of suffering, we have all kind of descriptions. One is very puzzling to everybody, is not to get what one wants is suffering. And to get what one wants also is suffering. But there is one thing, no, for not getting which we have suffering. But when we get it, we don't have suffering. That is not the reality listed in this list. That is getting arahanta phala. Arahanta phala. I think the other day I mentioned there are niramisa sukha, niramisa dukkha, niramisa upekha. Niramisa dukkha, niramisa sukha is seeing everything is impermanent, unsatisfactory and selfless. There arises happiness, knowing and seeing the reality. And niramisa dukkha, when we see everything is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selfless, we know it, we experience it, and yet we have not attained enlightenment just like any other arahant. Then dukkha arises for not getting what we want. And also, when we see everything is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selfless, since there is nothing special, everything is the same, then upekha arises, equanimity arises. Now, this happiness, this dukkha, this upekha arise by seeing everything is impermanent, unsatisfactory and selfless. Then when we wanted to get something, by not getting that, we will be unhappy, we have dukkha, and when we get it, we have no dukkha, no suffering. That is arahantut, or nibbana. That is the ultimate reality we want to get. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. I think that was clear as a bell. As a bell. Okay. So, next question. A toothache, a burn, and a backache are all painful feelings. Could you please give 3 examples of pleasant feelings and tell us how we can identify them?
Backache, toothache,
And a burn.
and burning. All have feeling, pain.
Painful.
Pain. I think all are impermanent. When they are present, we have pain. When they are absent, we have pleasure. Now, it doesn't matter what pain it is, only when it is present, when it exists, we experience pain. But that pain is not permanent. When it disappears, by taking medicine or exercise or mindfulness or whatever, when it disappears, we have pleasure. So, what actually you expect me to say from this question?
To give 3 examples of pleasant feelings.
3 examples of pleasant feeling, yeah. Pleasant feeling is when it is absent. When these 3 feelings are absent, burning, backache, toothache, apply, apply some medicine for burning, after a while it slowly fades away. There's a pleasure. When the pain is there, we have pain. So, for 3 feelings, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. When we have burn, it is very unpleasant feeling. When you have overcome that feeling, you have pleasant feeling. Now, when the pleasant feeling disappears, until you get burned again next time, during this time you have neutral feeling. Toothache also like that. Then tooth is aching, pain. When it is gone, pleasure. Between having toothache again and then not having it, during this time you have neutral feeling triggered in toothache. You have tooth, but you just don't care. It is just you keep using your eating, biting, and so forth. Backache also the same. When you have backache, you have pain. When it is gone, you have pleasure. And then you have neutral feeling until you get the next backache. So it is clear.
So then can I extrapolate that from what you're saying is the only time is our steady state pleasant, and our only our feeling is always pleasant unless we have a painful feeling?
We have feeling all the time. And most of the time we have neutral feeling until one particular feeling arises. Pleasant or painful feeling arises. For instance, we talk and so forth. We don't have any body ache, no special body pleasure. So during that time we experience neutral feeling. So neutral feeling is the feeling that you always have until one kind of feeling arises.
So neutral feeling is the default.
Neutral feeling is default, as you say.
Now, is there such thing as a pleasant feeling that has nothing to do with a painful feeling? Because the three examples of pleasant feeling you've given are the absence of the painful feelings.
Yeah.
Or the dissolution of the painful feelings.
Yeah.
Is there such thing as a standalone pleasant feeling?
Pleasant feeling, default pleasant feeling?
No, a pleasant feeling that has nothing to do with a painful feeling. That's not related to a painful feeling.
Pleasant feeling, when it exists, it has nothing to do with unpleasant or painful feeling or neutral feeling. That is what we are learning in the Vedananupassana. Vedana su Vedananupassi viharati. When one particular feeling is present, we become mindful of that particular feeling. It can be pleasant or painful or neutral.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Would it be correct to say that until one sees all sankharas as impermanent, one does not see things as they are?
Yes. Until one sees all the sankharas are impermanent, one would not have full understanding of the nature of sankhara. The nature of sankhara is that they are always rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling, appearing and disappearing. That is the nature of sankhara. But we normally ignore it. We simply don't pay attention to it. And therefore, we don't know the nature of sankhara, the true nature of sankhara. We don't see sankhara as they are. The Buddha repeatedly mentioned in many, many, many places, seeing and knowing can end suffering. The one who sees and knows can bring suffering to an end. What one does what one knows and sees is the true nature of sankhara. True nature of sankhara is impermanent, rising and falling, rising and falling, rising. You try to understand, ask yourself a question: is there anything in the universe, not this micro universe, macro universe or micro universe? That means you and the rest of the universe. Is there anything that does not rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall? That stay fixed, that stay. People, I don't know much about physics or chemistry or anything science, but I have heard people talk about black hole. Even the black hole is not something permanent. Even the black hole is not something permanent. It is active, the most powerful active moment is black hole. And that is so powerful that they say even the light, if light goes through it, the power of the black hole can bend the beam of light, can bend the beam of light. That power is the power of change. That is what I heard. From what I heard from all these things, I learned Dhamma. So I learned that the Buddha was so perfect, he knew that everything is so-called sankharas, every sankhara, all sankharas are impermanent. Sabbe sankhara anicchati. Yada panyaya pasati. Atha nibbindati dukhe esamaggo visuddhya. Meaning, seeing all sankharas are impermanent, all sankharas are unsatisfactory, all sankharas are without self, one would be disenchanted with sankharas, with suffering. Suffering, you put suffering in, if you make an equation, this side suffering equal this side sankhara. Suffering equal to sankhara. Suffering comes from rising and falling, appearing and disappearing, impermanence. So, all sankharas, in short, impermanent by default.
Clear as a bell. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Could you please explain how to get to equanimity? And then she put in parentheses, not mine, from carnal feeling.
Okay. I mentioned yesterday that equanimity, uh, equanimity, I said there are two types of equanimity. Equanimity arising from one object, equanimity arising from many objects. They are called ekattasita upekha and nanattasita upekha. Nanattasita upekha is the equanimity coming through six senses and their sensory object and their experiences. Especially somebody who is mindful, seeing impermanence in everything, equanimity arises in him because there is nothing different, everything is equal. Therefore, equanimity arises. That equanimity is called nanattasita upekha. Ekadasita upekha is equanimity arising from dhyana, attaining concentrated state of mind. There are 8 jhanas. In each of them, there is equanimity. Equanimity in those jhanas, first jhana is very mild, second is better, third is still better, fourth is very pure and clean, and the other four also only feeling present is equanimous feeling or equanimity. Now that is called ekatasita upekha, equanimity based on one object. And this equanimity is divided into two, tamyata and atamyata. Tang mayata. Maya means mind. That is mind. So the meditator can feel, can think, this is my upekha. This is my equanimity. So the notion of I, my mind disappears when the person understands or comprehends the perfectly clearly impermanence. Then there is no I or my. And therefore, then tammayata disappears and remains atammayata, equanimity without an owner, no owner, just equanimity prevails in the mind. The Buddhas, Pacceka Buddhas, Arahants, these are the individuals who really are in equanimous state all the time. No I, my, mine notion in their mind. Of course, when they want to communicate, when they want to talk to somebody, when they explain Dhamma, they use the word I, my, mine, and so forth. But that is only just to express or teach the Dhamma. They use this word. Otherwise, when they are silent, they don't think in terms of I. I want to eat, I want to sleep, I want to talk, I want to go. No. They mindfully, with equanimity, they do things that others would do. The difference is that they do it without I, my, mine concept, with equanimity. Okay?
Thank you, Bante. Um, could you please explain carnal slash non-carnal equanimous feeling a bit more? I am also trying to understand seeing with impermanence, altering, not holding, cessation.
Okay. Now, you have several things in that question. Carnal and non-carnal. Let me explain that once again. You may ask me that question anytime. Each time I gave you the same answer. Carnal is translated into English as household, worldly. Uh, Even that is very ambiguous for many people. Therefore, I make it even more lucid. I would say the pleasant, painful, and neutral feeling with greed, hatred, and delusion is called carnal. Carnal pleasure, carnal pain, and carnal equanimity. Non carnal means that pleasure, pain, and equanimity, greed, hatred, and delusion as underlying tendencies. For instance, pleasant feeling has the underlying tendency of greed. Unpleasant feeling has the underlying tendency of hate. Neutral feeling has underlying tendency of confusion, delusion, avidya. Now, without this greed, they have pleasure. Without hatred, they have pain. Without delusion, they have equanimity. Now, this pleasure, this pain, this equanimity, without greed, hatred, and delusion are called non carnal pleasure, non carnal pain, non carnal equanimity. Okay? That is the meaning. The next part of the question is
I'm also trying to understand seeing with impermanence,
ah,
altering, not holding, cessation.
very good. You try to understand, it's very good. Impermanence is, we might define impermanence as which something rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling all the time is called impermanence. Altering is before rises and falls, there may be very finest nanoseconds of minor altering. That is alteration. Then non what you call clinging is dispassion. The mind will see there is nothing, since everything is changing, rising and falling, everything is altering, there is no even nanosecond to grab or hold or cling to. One sees that also. Then cessation means stopping, disappearing, never to arise again the same thing. The same thing can never arise again. Everything arises, every arising is a new arising. Every passing away is a new passing away. This kind of very quick impermanence, altering, dispassion, and disappearing is called these three happen, therefore happened at the extremely rapid speed. And this rapidity of every moment of change, impermanence, altering, dispassion, and cessation happening so quickly, and the mindful meditators, when gain concentration, for that concentrated state of mind, that person experience the fastest changes taking place in that person. That is what it means. If you did not understand this explanation, you ask me again next time, I will tell you the same thing. It is not easy to understand these things very easily. Not easy. And therefore, don't feel bad about it, but have trust in the Buddha's teaching, and the Buddha experienced them. That is why he had the unshakable state of mind without wavering. Okay? Finish?
You want one more? Or
We don't have one. We have 1 minute. Another part?
could you please give an example of how one can get to the stage of non-carnal equanimous feeling?
Ah, to get non-carnal equanimous feeling, all you have to do is to see impermanence, even impermanence, anicca sanya. It's called Pali anicca sanya. Everything else will fall in place when you realize impermanence. So you see impermanence in everything, my friends. Everything means everything. Whatever thing, everything is impermanent. When you see everything is impermanent, there is nothing special. Nothing special. When there is nothing special, nothing very significant, equanimity arises in your mind. After all, this is impermanent, that is impermanent, that is impermanent, this is impermanent, that is impermanent, impermanent. You see impermanence, only impermanence. Everywhere and everything, all the time, impermanence. Then mind remains equanimous. That is how you get equanimity. And that equanimity is called non carnal equanimity. You know, the, yogi meditator sees with his eyes, his or her eyes, all kind of objects that anybody else in the universe can see. Hear any sound anybody can hear. Of course, until of course he is not deaf, or is his hearing impaired. Natural, normal hearing, healthy ears he have. Yes, he can hear, smell, just like anybody else. Anything, taste, touch, and thought arise in his mind, in the meditator's mind. But the difference is that that person sees those things as impermanent and appears and disappears as quickly as you can imagine. Buddha gave very beautiful simile in Mahasala Yatinika Sutta. The simile is suppose there is a hot pan put in a stove and it is heating, getting hot from morning till evening. Just imagine when a pan is that hot, how hot it is. The heat builds up, so much heat. And if you take 1 or 2 drops of water, as soon as the water touches the pan, it immediately evaporates. Similarly, when the person is mindful all the time, that person, whatever objects, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and so forth, appears in his mind, if that he sees that object is disappearing at the same speed that the drop of water disappears from the hot pan. Why is that? He was mindful. He was his mindfulness kept on building up the heat of mindfulness in the mind. That mindfulness heat can see things disappearing as it appears. Now, friends, our time is up. Now we want to once again continue our metta wish. As I began this morning, we all want to wish all those who are COVID victims, old victims, new victims, recent victims, no matter what status they are, may they get well very quickly and return to their normal health and continue their life, and one day understanding the truth of Dhamma, liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. And among these COVID 19 patients, some of them are in hospitals, taken care of by very compassionate doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs. And may those patients get well very quickly. And may all these doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs not get this virus at all, for them to continue their very wonderful, compassionate service. There are many world leaders who have taken care of themselves and people with understanding, patience, and insight, and let them continue their marvelous service. And some generous people who have been helping to come up with some kind of vaccine, medicine, pills, and whatever to help these people, let them continue their generosity. And the other leaders who who have not yet come up with very effective method to overcome this virus. May they have now more than before more patience, courage, understanding, and patience and wisdom to take leadership and make right decision for their own well-beings and happiness, and for the well-beings of all other beings and happiness. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming and participating in this morning session.